NFL Week 14 is in the books, and it was a terrible week for me. Only 6 right, so we're going to pretend that week didn't happen. We're going to go on right to the next week. We have several big matchups once again, and a lot of really shitty ones as well. So we'll go through it top to bottom like we always do. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. And according to the poll, you people, lovely people, want me to review and preview Bills lines. I expected that as much. I put up Eagles and Steelers as well, but I mean, can you get a more pivotal matchup than Bills Lions right now? Not right now. Sure, the Bills are coming off a loss, but I do think they have a good chance to win this week. But we're going to go through all the matchups, and of course, the Bills one will be separate, along with the Packers one. But let me know what you think down below. Let's get to it. With our first game, Thursday night game, LA versus San Francisco. San Francisco coming off the absolute drubbing of the Bears. The Rams getting the big win over the Bills, even though the Bills had a really good chance to win at the end, and the Rams kind of tried to do everything possible to make sure that game was a lot closer than it should have been. But I think it's the Rams in this one for sure. The 49ers are looking good offensively. They looked really good with Brock Purdy back in the helm. Isaac Guerrero looked pretty good at back, although he got injured, so we'll see if he's able to go this week. I assume he probably will. Getting some more guys back on defense has helped the 49ers, but I will see if Drake Greenlaw is able to return. I think he's probably still a week away from returning, and at the very least, 49ers kept their playoff hopes alive by beating the Bears, but I still don't think they're going to get in long term. Too many injuries are going to hold them back, despite a really good performance against the Bears. But then again, it's the Bears. But yeah, Rams have been doing well. Stafford has been lighting it up. Puka Nacua has been a revelation, especially when he's going in motion. He's racked him nearly 400 yards when he goes in motion this year, and they've been using him as kind of a running back as well in running plays, which has worked out really well. I mean, Puka Nacua is slowly taking over that number one spot. It's still Cooper Kupp's for now, but I expect Puka Nacua to bring it up eventually. And the Rams defense has been playing pretty well, despite giving up a ton of points last week. They were able to get to Josh Allen, or nearly get to Josh Allen a couple times last week. But I think that this game is LA's to win. It is in San Francisco, but like I said, I think the LA is just a better team right now. The 49ers do need this win badly, and again, another loss for the 49ers could really put a nail in their playoff hopes, although they're still mathematically in it as long as there's still a couple games left in the season. But I'll give it to the Rams in a close one, 24-21. Close game, one of the better games of the week. And let's go on to the next one. KC versus Cleveland. Kansas City. Again, finding ways to win. Again, it always seems like their games are completely staged. I mean, for like the 4th week in a row, they win on a field goal. Okay, well, 4th of 5, I suppose. Kansas City. Their running game was better last week. Patrick Mahomes had a really nice game. Their defense definitely got after Justin Herbert. Yeah, I think this game is Kansas City's win for sure. Cleveland, after beating the Steelers the week before, got absolutely drubbed last week. There was no chance. Jameis threw up a couple of meatballs, leading to interceptions. Jerry Jeudy had a nice touchdown last week, but after that, there really wasn't much to speak of there. I mean, the Steelers defense just dominated the Cleveland Browns last week. They couldn't really get their running game going at all, and as a result, Cleveland lost big time. And I don't expect much better. Kansas City is one of the best rushing defenses in the league. I expect them to keep both Nick Chubb and Jacoby Ford down again. Sure, there's some air yardage there to be had with Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore, and a couple other guys as well, but it's Kansas City. I'm not picking against Kansas City ever again. I learned my lesson last week. You just don't pick against the Chiefs ever, because NFL is not going to allow them to lose. So I think the Chiefs win by a score of 27-17. 14. Give Cleveland a chance for maybe a touchdown or two to Judy, but other than that, Jameis is going to be throwing up some more meatballs in this game. Next. Cincinnati and Tennessee, a somewhat interesting matchup. Cincinnati coming off the big win against Dallas. Again, their playoff hopes are very much hanging by a thread right now. I don't think they haven't been officially eliminated yet, but they did win last week, so that certainly does help. Burrow has been on a path this year. I mean, he's been great. Although he's been basically, you can do anything to Joe Burrow. I mean, he basically had his helmet ripped off, grabbed the face mask and just ripped it across his head. I mean, and there was no penalty called. There was like 3 times where he was just basically abused last week against the Cowboys, and they still didn't call any penalties. Tennessee, after a couple good offensive weeks, are always looking like they had some good offense to go forward. They scored 6 points against Jacksonville. They scored 6 points against Jacksonville Jaguars last week with Mac Jones at the helm. I don't know what else to say. Tennessee's just, again, Will Levis has his moments, but he's just not great. I expect him to do better this week because, again, Cincinnati's defense is not good. But Joe Burrow should have a field day. Chase Brown should be able to get plenty of yards this week, although might have a little bit of tough running because Tennessee does have a pretty good rushing defense, but they're not going to be able to stop Jamar Chase. They're not going to be able to stop T. Higgins. I don't think so. Cincinnati gets another win, again, keeping their slim playoff hopes alive. And Tennessee's just, again, looking to see if they need to get a new quarterback next year, or maybe keep Will Levis around. I don't know the answer to that because he's had some genuinely good games out there. But then he shows you performances like, how is this guy even an NFL quarterback? For real. He's one of the true mysteries in the NFL right now. And I'm glad I'm not a Titans fan because that kind of situation would drive me absolutely nuts. But Cincinnati wins 30-20. Give Tennessee at least some points in there because Tony Pollard should be able to run all day against Cincinnati. But again, another loss for the Tennessee Titans. Next. Washington and New Orleans, another interesting game. The Riz getting another win last week despite the Giants' woeful ineptitude. I mean, my God. That game was in the bag for the Giants to come back and win, and the block punt or the block field goal is just inexcusable. Brian Breezy just totally jumped over to the offensive line and got enough hands on it to block the ball away. The Giants are just a disaster. Everything's going to be new next year. New GM, new coach. I mean, on a side note, looking at what Josh Allen has done for the Bills this year and the last couple years, you really start to think it was not Brian Daboll that unlocked Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen that unlocked Josh Allen. It was not Brian Daboll. Now, I mean, especially after these years with the Giants, Brian Daboll just looks like a normal NFL coach. He just looks like a dime a dozen of NFL coaches out there, interchangeable, swappable, and just not somebody you need as your head coach. I mean, I was hoping to give Brian Daboll some credit this year, but the way the Giants continue to lose is just bad. You did not make Josh Allen. Josh Allen made Josh Allen. But back to Washington and New Orleans. Washington coming off a bye, so hopefully they got some nice rest. Brian Robinson should be good to go from any injury he's had. Jane Daniels should be able to have a good week. Terry McLaurin should have a good week. For the Saints defense has been kind of up and down this year, but still not the best unit out there. It's definitely getting older. It's in New Orleans, but I'm going to give the game to the Commies. They are coming off a nice bye week. They should be well rested. Jaden Daniels should be able to have a nice bounce back game. And yeah, I think not really bounce back game because they destroyed Tennessee 2 weeks or the week before they went on the bye week. But Washington wins 27-18. This could be a field goal game for New Orleans, so that's why it's such a weird score. But despite what the Riz has been able to get out of the Saints lately, it's unclear if Derek Carr is going to play. So he's off and on with a hand and concussion injury, so that might keep him out, and we might go back to Spencer Rattler. Oh God. Well, frankly, they should go to Jake Haener because Jake Haener is a better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. He just is. If Derek Carr is not able to play, give Jake Haener some run. He deserves it. He's played well in practice. He's just a better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. I'm sorry. He just is. Next. Baltimore and the Giants. Again, more of the Giants. The Giants suck. This is going to be a blowout in every way. If the Baltimore Ravens do not blow out this team by more than 20 points, concerned for Baltimore for sure. Again, Baltimore coming off the bye week. Lamar Jackson, again, looking like he's in MVP form, even though, like I said in my last video, is Josh Allen's to win as long as they keep winning. And I know they lost last week, but he won by putting out a complete MVP performance. Derrick Henry should be running hard this week, unfortunately, especially at the play with fantasy implications. Lamar Jackson should have a great week. Zay Flowers. Hopefully, Rashard Bateman. I don't remember what happened to him when they played the Eagles, but he did leave early. Hopefully, he is able to go. I don't know how severe that injury was that he had. Defense should be able to eat the Giants alive this week. Man, Drew Lock is not a good quarterback, or at least he hasn't been this year. And I expect a couple meatballs for him to be thrown up to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens should win this pretty handily. 35-14. Always give the Giants maybe a chance with Tyrone Tracy getting a touchdown or two. But other than that, man, it's going to be a dark day in New Jersey for sure. Baltimore is going to whip their hides. Next. Dallas versus Carolina, another interesting game. Dallas finding new, incredible ways to lose games. Carolina, even though they lost, looks really good. They look like a completely different team. Unfortunately, Jonathan Brooks tore the same ACL in the knee they had done 13 months ago. So I hope he doesn't give up on football because he really is a good talent. He really is, when healthy, a Bijan Robinson type running back out there, but two ACL injuries in 13 months. It's tough to come back from. I don't expect to see him at all next year. Who knows if he'll ever truly regain his form that he had when he was with Texas, but man, that would be one of those true sad stories in the NFL. But back to Carolina, Bryce Young has looked like Alabama Bryce. He looks like Tyson Bryce out there. He's made a couple interceptions, but that play in the end zone against the Eagles was something spectacular. The Eagles had him dead to rights several times. Should have gotten to safety, but he maneuvers his way out, got to the first down, and yes, even though they lost, they kept it close. They only lost 22-16 in a game that a lot of people probably thought was going to be a total blowout. The Eagles, again, are still one of the best teams in the NFL, but trouble could be brewing, especially with the whole feud between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts changing his picture on X to the Joker. I mean, I get where he's coming from, needing more targets, but you're winning. That is what all should matters. You got paid. you're winning. You're winning by a lot. You're winning handily. You still get your targets on a weekly basis. I guess it's just because I've never played tackle football beyond Pee Wee. But I just don't understand why these guys get so fed up with each other so easily. It's just so, like, middle schoolish, I gotta be honest. Jalen Hurts has still been playing well. He's up there for MVP, but I don't think he's really going to get it, even though there's really no reason why he shouldn't win it, but it's just Josh Allen is a freak. Saquon Barkley continuing his torrid pace to maybe breaking Eric Dickerson's record, but yeah, why are we talking about the Eagles so much? Sorry. But yeah, Dallas, again, Cooper Rush is a decent backup quarterback. Carolina is a decent looking team. Yes, they're 3-10, but Bryce Young has earned his spot for next year with Carolina. But for Dallas, Rico Dowdle has been doing well. Cooper Rush has had his moments. CD had a good game last week, but again, the defense, it makes plays, but then their special teams absolutely threw the game away. Sorry for the Eagles tangent there again, but Carolina wins 20-17. Next game. The Jets and Jacksonville. Jacksonville finding ways to win. Again, they're still a bad team looking for a top player in the draft next year. The Jets, again, finding ways to lose. Devontae Adams goes out of bounds, doesn't go out of bounds, they probably win the game. Yeah, it's not a good-looking game. Jacksonville, with Mac Jones, I mean, they look like they've been able to move the ball somewhat, but not all that much. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers had a vintage Aaron Rodgers performance last week, but again, the defense gave the game away, completely gave away. I might actually pick the Jets in this one. I think I'm going to pick the Jets in this one. It's in Jacksonville, but I don't think that really matters. Jets win in this one. I mean, the Jets' running game wasn't able to really get anything going last week without Breece Hall, but still, through the air, Aaron Rodgers was pretty good. Pretty darn good. Vintage Aaron Rodgers performance, just he does well. The whole game does everything to win, and then the defense just loses it for him. But I will give the Jets the win. 17-14. Should be a close game, but again, if the Jets don't win this game, again, we'll have another reason to laugh at them, because we've all been laughing at the Jets all year long. Next. Miami versus Houston. Another interesting game. Miami looking like they could get into the playoffs, which is a miracle. Houston coming off a bye. Houston, again, has not looked great these past couple weeks. Even though they beat Jacksonville 2 weeks ago, they nearly blew that game out. They nearly blew that game so bad. Even after Aziz Al-Shair's absolutely despicable attack on Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones nearly let that comeback. So we'll see if Houston has worked things out. Again, Joe Mixon should be able to have a pretty good game in this one. Hopefully that connection between Nico Collins and CJ Stroud can get going again, because earlier in the year they were lighting it up, but then Nico got hurt with a hamstring and just hasn't been able to gain that karma back. It certainly doesn't help that Stephon Diggs is out for the year with the torn ACL. That really helps bring some diversity to that wide receiving core. But yeah, the Houston Texans haven't had it. As long as they can run the ball, they should win this game. But the way Tua has been playing, the way Waddle has been playing, Waddle's definitely been the favorite target so far, with Tyreek Hill slowly working and getting more run, and Devon Chain is just on a tear. I mean, he's a great running back, and he's a great receiving back. He's probably one of the best receiving backs in the league For a league that doesn't have as many receiving backs as it has in the past, Devon Achane is kind of a throwback in that sense of the word. He looks really good. As long as he's running, and as long as he's getting a lot of receptions, Miami's going to keep winning. And even though their defense has been playing well, their kicker has been playing well, the whole team has rallied around Tua since he came back from another concussion. And this is an interesting game. I think I'm going to go with Miami. Now, 2 weeks ago, I probably would have said Houston was going to win, but unless CJ Stroud and Nico Collins figure out their chemistry once again, Miami's going to keep winning. And they may very well just make the playoffs, because they're basically on a week-to-week basis right now. And if they make the playoffs, because of how the Broncos are like 8-5 and on the last seed, so like they need to win. The Miami Dolphins basically need to win out and hope Denver or some other team loses. But Miami wins 24-21. It's going to be a really interesting game, really good game. One of the more underrated games of the week. Next, Denver versus Indy. Indy coming off a bye. Denver coming off a bye. It's in Denver. Denver's defense has been great. Indy's offense has been pretty up and down. Jonathan Taylor, I believe, had a pretty good game the last time they were out. Actually, scratch that. I don't think he did. He hasn't really been the same since earlier in the season. He's slowly been getting back to where he was at the beginning of the year, but still, Anthony Richardson is a wild card. You never know what you're going to get each week. You never know if he's going to be throwing up 2-3 interceptions or just dropping dimes out there. Hopefully Josh Downs has been able to recover from his shoulder injury, I believe. So hopefully he'll be out there. Alec Pierce and maybe even Michael Pittman will be able to be back out there. That would be certainly nice to have a full complement of wide receivers out there, especially with the defensive tag that the Denver Broncos have. Bo Nix has been lighting it up this year. He's looking to be the offensive rookie of the year right now. Who would have thought that going into the year? The running game has been great. We'll see what happens. I think defense wins out in this, and plus it's in Denver. Indy needs to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Denver needs to win to just keep pace with the last seed and keep a hold of that last seed, because Miami probably is rooting for a Denver loss, right? Well, probably rooting for a Denver loss. If you're Miami Dolphins, you're probably rooting for Denver to lose. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen with the way Denver's defense has been. So Denver wins 27-24. I think Indy just comes up a little bit short, but they at least show they still have some fight left in them, but it's just not going to be enough. Denver wins. Defense is just a little too powerful, especially the way with Anthony Richardson throws the ball around sometimes. Could be throwing up some meatballs. Next. And next, our potential game of the week, Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, boy, these state rivals certainly hate each other, I'm sure. And Pittsburgh's defense has been great. Philly's defense has been great. Saquon Barkley has been lighting it up all year, even though they didn't have the greatest game last week against Carolina. Pittsburgh was really good on offense again last week, and their defense really came alive against the Browns, avenging their loss from 2 weeks before. This is an interesting game. If there was any game that Philly's going to lose this year, this would be it. I mean, the way that the defense has been playing for the Steelers gives them every right to win. If TJ Watt can get to Jalen Hurts on a consistent basis, it's definitely Pittsburgh's game to win, because no one's really been able to get to Jalen all that much, force him into throws, but in the past he's been known to be able to be gotten to. And if TJ Watt and the rest of that defensive line, defensive tackle overall, can get to Jalen, they should have a pretty good game. Offensive wise, Najee Harris has just been old reliable. Jalen Warren can't get anything in there. As long as Najee Harris is going forward, they should have a pretty good chance to win. It doesn't look like Pickens is going to play, but they didn't need him last week, and I don't expect that. As long as Mike Williams, as long as he keeps playing well, he can keep getting his targets for sure. Um, yeah, it's a really evenly matched game. Oh, but in the end, I think I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins on the road. They keep hold of that AFC North. And the Eagles lose for the first time in many, many weeks. Yeah, the first time since week 4. This will be the Eagles' first loss since week 4. It's pretty incredible because there have been times where they probably should have lost, but they always find ways to win. So Pittsburgh wins 27-24. It's going to be a really great game to watch. Next. New England versus Arizona, an interesting game on paper. New England, they've had their moments these past couple weeks, but not enough to really make a dent in anything. Arizona's kind of faltered lately, kind of been exposed the last couple weeks by the Seahawks twice. Kyler Murray still has his moments here and there, but he still throws too many interceptions at times, it seems, or at least in the worst moments. James Conner is still old reliable out there. He still gets you about 80 to 90 yards a game and some receiving yards as well, maybe even a touchdown. So if you're looking for him again in fantasy, again, he's another good bet this week. Maybe this is a get-right game for Arizona, but at the same time, Arizona's defense hasn't been playing very well. So Drake May might be able to attack them this week and get a touchdown or two. I don't know. I don't want to call it a low-scoring game because I still don't think it's going to be that low-scoring. But I think in the desert, I think Arizona wins 20-17 just because I think Arizona still has a little bit left to play for. I still don't like their hopes to make it in the playoffs, especially after losing 2 games to Seattle. But Arizona keeps their hopes alive. And New England just keeps waiting for next year, hoping they can get Travis Hunter or some wide receiver at the top of the draft. Because I think that's what they really need. They do have pieces on defense for sure, but New England really needs that big playmaker. They really do. They got the quarterback of the future. Now they just need his number 2 to ride into hell with him for the next several years. And Travis Hunter could very well that player. Next. Tampa Bay versus the Chargers, another interesting game. Again, last week, the Chargers, man, they had that game. They had it. They should have won, but of course, Kansas City finds ways to win, and they bullshit their way to another victory. Tampa Bay with the win last week. They look pretty darn good. Well, actually, at times they didn't look the greatest, but they were able to get it done. Sorry, I can't remember who they played last week. Mike Evans had another great game, or had a pretty good game. Baker had a fair share of interceptions last week. There's times where I thought Tampa Bay was going to lose. And sorry, I can't remember who they played. Who did they play last week? Las Vegas. That's right. Las Vegas gave them all they could handle at times, and like I said, Las Vegas got a couple interceptions against them, but again, still Tampa Bay is still looking good after looking fantastic past couple weeks. Bucky Irving again didn't do much in this game. Have to wonder if he's still being hindered by that hip injury. Just hasn't been the same. Rashad White had a really nice game. So this is something nice to have if you're a Tampa Bay fan, having 2 pretty decent running backs out there, Rashad White and Bucky Irving. They're both great backs, and both have great passing game opportunities as well. The Chargers, man, I still think the Chargers make the playoffs, but they need a get-right game. I don't know if this game is their get-right game but their defense should be able to get to Baker. Should be able to get a couple interceptions as well. Herbert, again, you just want to root for him and get well because he is a great quarterback, but every time you think he's going to show it on a consistent basis, and he just doesn't, just doesn't have the touchdown numbers that you would expect him to, doesn't have the passing numbers that you would expect him to have. It's just, I don't know. The Chargers are an interesting team. I think if they win, they don't lock up a playoff spot, but they're getting pretty close with how late in the season it is. So this is kind of a must-win game for both teams. Tampa Bay to keep ahead of the Falcons, know that they have the division lead in the NFC South, which is incredible. 4 weeks ago, they were basically 3 games out. And the Chargers need to keep hold of that second place in the AFC West. It's going to be a really interesting game. Mike Evans should be able to have some good receptions, although he might be kept down by that defense. If the Chargers defense stands strong, Chargers win. If they falter, then Tampa Bay wins. I think it really comes down to how well the defense for the Chargers plays this week. And if they can able to get some actually running game going, because they haven't been able to do that since J.K. Dobbins went on IR. So I'm going to lean on the Chargers defense this week. It's in LA, even though they don't have a home field advantage. It is still nice to play in LA. Chargers win 24-21. I think an interception by Tampa Bay brings them down. And I still think and who knows, with who Atlanta's playing this week, they could be back in second place by the end of the week. So Tampa Bay definitely needs this win big time. Next, Chicago and Minnesota. Minnesota has been great. Have 2 great wide receivers in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Have probably the number 1 or number 2 defense in the league. The Bears have been having crap. Absolute crap. Caleb Williams again got sacked 4 times this week. And I expect Minnesota to get a couple more sacks again. Rome Odunze starting to look like the favorite target of Caleb Williams when he's out there. DJ Moore is still out there, but again, it's just like, I think in the end, by next year, Rome Odunze will be the favorite target for Caleb Williams. But man, there's just not a lot to play for the Bears, and I think Minnesota's gonna blow them out this week. I do. I don't see any reason why the Bears should win this game, even for rivalry standards. Vikings should absolutely crush them this week. Well, maybe not crush them. It's just not going to be very close. In the end, Minnesota wins 34-21. Somewhat close early on, but again, Caleb was probably going to throw an interception, or he's going to get sacked, and they're going to lose tons and tons of yards and again end up punting a couple more times than they probably should. But that's just the nature of playing the Vikings this year. They are a truly great team this year, and as long as Sam Darnold is not making mistakes, they're going to keep winning. It's just, I hate to say that as a Packer fan, but until the Vikings play the Packers, I don't see the Vikings losing again. Next. In our last game of the week, another terrible Monday night game. 2 terrible-looking Monday night games this week. Atlanta and Las Vegas. Las Vegas looks like they're going to Desmond Ridder probably because Aiden O'Connell went out with an injury. We'll see if he's able to play. Desmond Ridder had some moments last week. Again, not enough to bring his team back against Tampa Bay. Atlanta finding new ways to lose, or more Atlanta ways to lose. They were in the game, but then a fumble on the kickoff return by Ray McLeod, then another interception by Kirk Cousins, and the game got lost pretty quickly. Bijan Robinson has been great. Bijan Robinson has been absolutely great for this team. Despite playing against some of the best defenses in the league the past couple weeks, Bijan has been able to get plenty of yards. He nearly ran for 100 last week. Had some good yards in the air. He's your workhorse. He's gonna continue to get yards. Darnell Mooney again showing chemistry with Kirk, but I don't see them going or swapping out Kirk Cousins. They're just paying him too much money to sit him on the bench, and he's still probably your best bet at quarterback. But yeah, the Raiders don't have much to play for. Sincere McCormick had a pretty decent game against Tampa Bay last week, but again, and should probably have a decent game this week, but the Raiders are so inconsistent. Absolutely inconsistent. I do like this as a Brock Bowers game for sure. Brock Bowers should be able to get plenty of targets because he's their best player on offense. I think he's already one of the best players on the team, period. But Raiders do not win this game. Atlanta manages to win, and because I'm picking Tampa Bay to lose to the Chargers, Atlanta pulls ahead once again in the NFC South, and this is basically going to come down to who wants it more in the NFC South. Atlanta wins 27-20. Somewhat close game, but yeah, Atlanta just has a little bit more. And there are our picks for the week. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Have a great day. Go back on as always. God bless.